Durant's got Ginobili on him. Give and go. Curry.
Yeah.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
We talking about practice.
Nope.
You're serious.
Yeah.
Give it up. You get it back.
Oh, beautiful. Give back.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to the Give and Go podcast presented by Sport.media. My name is Daniel Freeman and we are a man down today. No Jed, unfortunately, he's at the Melbourne Cup. He's ditched us for horse racing. No, he hasn't actually. But I am joined by Dylan Brown and Jared Gardner. We still have a big show to get through today. We're going to start off by breaking down or having a bit of a debate about the best team in the East. Now, we're not going to do the West because that's pointless because it's a clear-cut race. But at the moment, our East, I think it's pretty clear that there's 5 teams and then a big drop-off. Yep. We've left, for the sake of this argument, we've left the Sixers and the Pacers out of that, the 3 teams we're debating about. That may be slightly controversial. We'll touch
talk about
on
the Sixers a little bit later.
We will touch on the Sixers later, but we feel that they're just a little bit off the pace at the moment. Yep. But we have the Celtics, the Raptors, and the Bucks, which are the 3 teams we're going to be debating. We're going to start with the Celtics because most people heading into the season had them pegged as probably the favourite to come out of the East. Jared, why are the Celtics, despite their slower start, still the best team in the East?
Well, I think what people have to remember about this Celtics team is that they're basically forming a basically new team after last season. They're bringing Gordon Hayward, who only got 5 minutes of action last season.
Yep.
Kyrie wasn't there for their playoff run. I think what everyone doesn't realize is this is basically a super team, this Boston Celtics side, because Jason Tatum is going to be one of the best players in the NBA in no time at all. Kyrie's already one of the best point guards in the league, and Gordon Hayward, when he was fit and firing, was talked about as one of the top wings in the league.
Yep.
So you've got 3 players who are all...
And Horford's an all-star as well.
Yeah, Horford's an all-star, and he anchors their defense, and they've got one of the best coaches in the league in Brad Stevens.
And Aaron Baines.
Yeah, who's shown... They've shown what they can do. It is just a matter of gelling for this team, and I think we speak about it with... When super teams are formed, we talk about the LeBron Miami team. There was always...
even the Warriors, first night they got destroyed by the Spurs, that opening game.
There's always that period at the start of the season where they've just kind of got to gel and kind of got to figure out what's going on and who's going to take the shots. The difference with this Celtics team is that they've got so many scorers, and it's just ridiculous.
It's who gets the ball, who gets those chances.
Yeah, usually on those teams, it's like there's the clear-cut number one guy, which is LeBron and his teams, and everyone kind of...
Well, even on the Warriors, it's Steph and KD drop off Clay and then drop off Draymond.
Yeah, it is. And this team, it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of figure that out. I think Kyrie should be the guy for at least this season. But Jason.
Still,
Tatum
he's had the
up.
games where he had the 3 points and that that's just so unusual.
Yeah, it is. And I think they've just always got someone who's going to stand up.
Yeah.
And I think they're one of the best defensive teams in the game. And I think it just goes a long way. I think they're the best team in the East.
All right, time to question him a bit, Brownie. Let's throw a few questions at Jared over here. All right, I agree with you in terms of it's a feeling out period for the Celtics, especially in terms of who gets the minutes, who gets the touches. If you look at Terry Rozier's numbers, for example, they've fallen off a bit because Gordon Hayward's getting more of the ball. I think Hayward is the big question mark because he's looked okay. Now, obviously, the injury he had is not your hamstring strain, or it's a difficult injury to come back from. But can he get back to that level that he was at, where he was an all-star, 22 points per game player for the Jazz? Because right now, he doesn't look like that player.
I don't think stats-wise he'll get to that level. Like, I don't think he'll be back at 22 points a game anytime soon. Yeah. With the talent they've got on the team, but I think the way he can fit into this squad is just kind of, he'll have to be the number 2 or number 3 guy, probably number 3 at this point with Kyrie and Jason Tatum.
Yeah.
And it kind of does rely on him accepting that role because...
Which, we had that quote as well where he came out and said he was a bit I can't remember the exact wording, but he was frustrated at the fact that they were winning so easily without him, which got a bit of attention, but at the same time, it's a normal human instinct.
Exactly. It will kind of run through anyone's mind if they're on a team and they're doing so well, and you are the big signing. You're meant to be the one, the big improvement for this team.
Yeah.
So I think it comes down to that mentality for him.
Yeah.
Is he going to step up and bring it for this Celtic squad?
Yeah, which with the Brad Stevens connection and everything through college, you'd think he would.
Yeah.
He'd accept that. And there haven't been any chemistry issues. But yeah, he's averaging 10 points per game on 40% field goal, 34% from three. He's had 3 games where he scored under 10 points. So he hasn't been the same Gordon Hayward that we saw in Utah. But as I said, it's still early. There's a lot of time for him to get it right. Any questions to throw at Jared to help your case, which you'll make in a second?
Superstar-wise, who's the one that's going to take... Do you think Kyrie's going to be the one
or Tatum
to take them to that next level this year if he stays healthy?
Yeah, I think he's shown in previous years that he can be the guy and he can score.
Just ask Steph.
Yeah, he can score in bunches for anyone that he plays for. I think it just works in his favour that he's got a guy like Jason Tatum who can kind of take the load off if he is having a bit of an off night. Yeah. But I think he's the number one for the Celtics.
Yeah. I think for the Celtics, they've got the runs on the board. Like, that's why people are still holding them up there. They haven't had the greatest start compared to record-wise compared to Toronto or Milwaukee. But it's just we have so much faith in Brad Stevens and we have so much faith in these players. And I think it's worth... honestly, at this point, they'd probably better off as a team right now bringing Hayward off the bench and maybe bring Morris into that starting lineup. But I think in terms of moving forward, they need to have Hayward in that starting lineup because if they're going to challenge the Warriors, they need to have Hayward back at least 90% of Utah Hayward. So I think they're making the right call there. All right, Brownie, the Raptors. Why are the Raptors the best in the East?
Well... It's their best start in franchise history at the moment, going 9-1.
Yep.
They've improved. They've got an MVP, former MVP candidate in Kawhi Leonard. They lost to DeRozan, but they've improved by getting a better star.
Yep.
Last year they had the best record in the East.
Yep.
Well, I think they
they did best in the East. Yep.
And they've just improved by adding a better player. If he stays healthy, Kawhi Leonard could take them all the way to the finals. They've got numerous solid team around him.
As well, yeah.
They've also Danny Green's a good pickup in that trade. They've got Siakam, who's solid defensively. Serge Ibaka, who destroyed the Lakers yesterday.
Turned into Kevin Durant cross LeBron.
I don't know how much to take out of that yesterday, but they're just a solid team overall. Defensively, they're quite strong. The only question I've got offensively, they haven't got as much shooting, but I think that can go all the way.
Got any questions?
No, I think I'll add to your point a little bit. I think that the thing about the Raptors and bringing in Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green over a guy like DeRozan is that they've got that winning mentality and they've been in that organization with the Spurs that's kind of won a lot, and especially they've gone to the finals. Kawhi Leonard won the finals MVP. Danny Green had some outstanding shooting performances in playoffs and final series. So it's a big win for them. I think, the one question does become that shooting. Like, it's good enough to have Lowry Leonard and Danny Green who could all shoot, but then a guy like Fred VanVleet will come off the bench and can shoot a little bit. And I know he can shoot a little bit. Shots, is it going to be consistent enough for them to stack up against? Because we saw Boston when they beat Milwaukee, 24 threes. And you know that's not going to happen every night. But... that's got to be the one thing that would worry Raptors fans.
My only other question is Kyle Lowry, because he always goes missing in the playoffs. That's my only thing. Another sort of question mark with that team, because throughout the season he plays well, but every time they've come up in the finals, he goes missing, especially against LeBron, although he's not there anymore. But we'll see. We'll see. And
Lowry to start the season has been insane. He leads the NBA in average assists, so he's had 8 consecutive games with double-digit assist numbers. So he's averaging just over 11.5, which is up from 7 last season. So he's been really good to start, which he gets a little bit more playmaking opportunity. I mean, Kawhi and DeRozan are similar in terms of how much of the ball they're taking, but Kawhi can play a little bit more off the ball than DeRozan does, so he gets a bit more opportunity there. I think the Raptors... Look, I'm going to argue the Bucks, but to be honest, I'm not buying what I'm selling. I think the Raptors are the best team in the East right now, and it's just going to come down to, we talked about their depth last year, and that was one of their big selling points. can that bench hang with the Celtics bench? Which, I mean, the Celtics bench is a starting unit for some of the teams towards down the bottom, so it's going to be up to that. And I think the scary part for Toronto is that I don't think Kawhi's at 100% yet. I think he can get better. Yeah, he's still he's in that cruise mode of, not playing back-to-backs. He doesn't look like he's giving 100% the whole time. I think there's another level that Kawhi can go to. And we always talk about the fact that in a playoff series, having the best player on the court sometimes is enough if you're level pegging to tip you over the edge. And if Kawhi's back to 100% and it's, let's say, Raptors versus Celtics, I'm taking Kawhi over anyone on that Celtics team. So that gives them an edge for sure. All right, let's go with the surprise packet. I think a lot of people thought the Bucks were going to be good this year. I don't think many people thought that they were going to be this good, at least so far. So right now they are 8-1, which has included wins over the Pacers, 76ers, Timberwolves, and the Raptors as well. Now in that game, Giannis and Kawhi didn't play, so read into that what you want. Their one loss came to the Celtics, as we said, but they broke their franchise record for three-pointers that game. They were 1 3-pointer off equaling the NBA record. So I reckon if you played that game 10 times, they probably would have won it the other 9. So I don't think you take too much out of that loss from a Bucks perspective. They're averaging, so they're third best offensive rating in the league and second best defensive rating. Which, if you're in top 5 in those two categories, I mean, the Raptors are 4 and 6. I think the Celtics' offensive rating is all the way down the bottom. Their defensive rating is still really good. So if you're to be second and third, I know it's 3 weeks in, but that's seriously impressive. They're averaging just under 122 points per games. They put up 144 on the Kings yesterday, which admittedly it's the Kings, but still, that's their highest score in franchise history since 1989. So right now they are rolling. As we talked about the threes, they're shooting 41 threes per game. Last year they took 24 per game. So that's just an astronomical rise in the amount of three balls they're taking. Only Houston is taking more threes than the Bucks this year, which, considering where they were last year, is just a massive change. Look, my question is, and this is where some of my concerns come into it, I don't know if they can keep this hot shooting going, because right now as a team they are on fire, except for Giannis, who is 2 for 19, I think, from 3. But
Lopez is dropping them like nothing.
Yeah,
he
Lopez
wasn't doing
is
that
like
for the Lakers last year, I can tell you that.
Lopez is going between his legs, stepping back from 3. That's how much the Bucks have changed.
Yeah.
But if you just look at their shooters, so Middleton leads the pack at 49% from 3. He's a career 39%er. Snell's at 46%. He's a 38% for his career. Brogdon 44. 39 career. Connaughton, who's only playing limited minutes, but 42 is a 36 career. Henson's 40 at the moment, 40% from 3 is a career 27. Ilyasova's 39, a career 36. Lopez and Bledsoe are the only two who are shooting at their, pretty close to their career averages. So can those 6 guys keep that up? I don't know, because some of them are quite high. Like, we're talking about a 8 to 10 jump, 8 to 10% jump in their averages. That usually doesn't sustain for an entire season. So what happens when when those shots that are falling right now don't fall? And then on top of that, it's just down to how far Giannis can take them, really.
Exactly. That was my question about this team, is that I look at this roster and
no one else really intimidates you.
Yeah, well, Giannis is the best player, but then Chris Middleton is a very good NBA
a 20
player.
Point per game
I don't
scorer.
think he's a number 2 guy on a finals team.
Yeah. It's questionable.
And then you look even further down the roster, like Bledsoe, Brogdon, Lopez, Ilyasova over the next 4 in points per game. Yeah. And I don't see those guys. I wouldn't have picked those guys as starters in a team that could go to the finals.
It's not.
But that is another concern I have. It's can even DiVincenzo, Connaughton, Henson, Snell, these guys who are going to be going up against Terry Rozier, Marcus Smart, Aaron Baines, Marcus Morris. That's who they're going to have to compete with. Yeah. I don't know if they stack up compared to the best of the second unit from the Raptors and the Celtics. But it's still incredibly impressive. Giannis has been good, but once again, I think he can be better. He's been dominant. That outside shot still is not falling. As we said, he's shooting just 10% from 3. I mean, that's atrocious, but at least he's shooting it, which another person we'd like to shoot some threes who isn't shooting it, which we might get to later. But overall, they've been incredibly impressive. I still think there is a little bit of room for improvement, but I think they will regress eventually. And as I said, I'm not buying what I'm selling. I do think the Raptors are the best team, but I think that the Bucks under Bud have been really impressive. And I mean, you can't argue with 8-1. It's people like to say it's early and it's like too soon. But if you look back at history, the teams that start this well generally do finish up the top of the standings. So,
I think for the Bucks, winning the Central Division would be a big win this season.
Yeah,
because I know it's only really the Pacers that they've got to contend with, but if they can finish with a better record than Indiana and win that division, I think that's a big step in the right direction. And it kind of it puts them on the map and gives them and everyone will want to play with Giannis if they see what he can do. So
exactly.
I think it's a good look to the future for the Bucks.
Yeah, and I think the other thing for the Bucks as well is that teams are now going to start putting effort into how do we stop Middleton, Snell, these kind of guys that never really would have got attention before, but now they're going to.
Yeah.
Whether the Celtics have kind of already dealt with that, the Raptors have kind of already dealt with that, whether the Bucks are the new hot shots. And because of that record, they are going to get teams who are starting a game plan specifically for those players who probably wouldn't have seen anything like that unless they were stars at college. Like, they're not going to have seen that kind of defense, so we'll have to see how they respond to that. But overall, at least in the East, we can't just go there's one clear-cut winner. Yeah. So we'll take that compared to the West. All right, moving across to the Western Conference, we're going to talk about the San Antonio Spurs, who we haven't really covered, to be honest, for the entire year. So, admittedly, before we were going to cover the Spurs, they were looking like they were going to be 7-2, third in the West. And then, of course, the podcast curse struck again, and they lost to the Magic. In the game, they were losing by 26 points at one stage. They managed to pull it closer towards the end, but they are still 6-3. They've knocked over the Timberwolves, the Lakers twice, the Pelicans, the Suns, and the Mavs. They've lost to the Blazers, the Pacers, and the Magic. I think they've been impressive from what we anticipated. Yeah. I still think there's a clear ceiling on how far they can go.
Yeah, I don't think they're Spurs of old where we kind of expect them to go West Conference Finals, challenge for a spot in the NBA Finals. I think they're a very good playoff team, but I can't see them getting any further than probably the semifinals. Yeah,
I think the most interesting thing with the Spurs is just Popovich doesn't care about the trends. He doesn't he'll zig and like everyone's zigging and he's just like, no, I'm going to zag. Like, I don't care what everyone else is doing. Yeah. He's already came out with a quote saying like, I'm not just going to shoot threes because everyone else is doing it, which we talked about before we started recording, the fact that he was the one who started this layups or threes. And now it's like mid-range. Yeah. Like it's just how he can adapt as a coach. He's just incapable of coaching a bad team. Like, he's ridiculously good, and it's impressive what he can do. Because outside of Aldridge, I mean, obviously Aldridge and DeRozan are both great players, and DeRozan in particular started the season very impressively. Half their players, like, they just look like, you know, when you like auto-create 2K players and you just get a team of like randoms? Like, that's what it looks like. It's like Bryn Forbes, Bertans, Pirtle, like, it's just like
Tom
these
Dixter,
guys. Yeah.
Chimsy, me too.
It's kind of like you just went random team, like random players. But he turns them into decent players. I mean, we talked about Bryn Forbes a couple of weeks ago. He can seriously shoot. I mean, they've got Cunningham, who's not great offensively, but at least he's been giving them something defensively. Bertans looks all right. Like, they've got these guys who are bringing something to the table when really you wouldn't expect them to even be NBA players. But let's be honest, this team revolves around DeRozan and Aldridge. Yeah. Do you think DeRozan, he's playing at the moment better than he was at the Raptors, which, is that sustainable or...
I don't think it's sustainable to the level that he's playing at right now, but I think he's still such a great player, and he's going to. I think he's the number one guy on this Spurs team.
And for Aldridge Browning, now he doesn't have to be that number one guy, so at least
he doesn't like to be the first option. Although when last year he took the mantle and played pretty well in a stretch of games and helped them win because Kawhi was out for most of the year. Yeah. So But at the moment, he's playing well with DeRozan. I didn't think this pairing would work out.
No, well, on paper, like when you say it, you don't think it would because it's
look at the
anti what
spacing.
everything's happening.
The spacing is, you look at it and go, how are they going to score? But seems to be able to put up some buckets. So.
No, they're finding a way. I think the big question for them through the first, 9 games has been the defense. As Jared desperately tries to get his laptop plugged in. We got 12% left and the cord won't reach. But yeah, defense has been, through the first 4 games, they were giving up 121 points per game, which is similar to what the Lakers have been giving up for perspective. And this is a team that's had a top 5 defensive rating for the last 6 seasons. So last year, even when they didn't have Kawhi, they still finished top 5. They every single year. So that was pretty alarming in terms of what's going wrong here if the Spurs defense isn't there. But over there, so they had a 4-game winning streak against the Lakers, Mavs, Suns, and Pelicans. They were giving up an average of just under 100. So they pulled it back to what we expect from the Spurs. But then they did give up 117 to the Magic yesterday. Look, I watched that game and I don't think those Magic players will ever hit those shots again. They couldn't miss anything. Like Terrence Ross turned into Steph Curry, as he can do once in a blue moon. Like they were hitting literally everything. So you could give them a bad game. I don't think you read too much into that. I do think from what I've seen of the Spurs, which is 3 games, the 2 versus the Lakers and then the 1 versus the Magic, there's 2 versions of this team. There's a version where DeMar and Aldridge just dominate everything. It's like a pick and roll with the 2 of them, and every single possession just results in a fadeaway or a mid-range, something in that mid-range area, and the other players kind of stand there and do nothing. And there's a version of this team where it's either Patty or Bryn Forbes who's in control, and they get a lot more ball movement out of it. It's just, even that they said they were down 26 versus the Magic. They actually charged all the way back into it. And when they were charging back into it, Aldridge and DeRozan were on the bench. So there is something to the fact that, look, they're impressive and they've been able to get to a 6-3 record, which a lot of teams right now would be wishing they could be at a 6-3 record. So it is working. I just don't know long term. I think it's easy to stop. I don't think that it's a hard game style in a 7-game series to work out a way to stop.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I just think that it's predictable, which is good in terms of in the regular season you know what you're getting, but when teams are able to game plan for you, I just don't know if you can rely on that. But in saying that, DeMar's averaging nearly 27 points, shooting over 50% from the field for the first time in his career. He's averaging nearly 7 assists per game, which is a big uptick from last year. As we said, Aldridge is about 20 and 9. Both of them are not taking anywhere near as many threes as they did last year, which we know that was a big thing with DeMar and Dwayne Casey. We push him to take threes, and Aldridge probably had to because he's that main man. So it's interesting they've kind of resorted back to what they're comfortable with, and no DeJounte Murray and Lonnie Walker. So I mean.
And Derek White as well, who was their starting point guard when Murray got injured. Now he's been injured, so they've had to change that up. The last one I will touch on with the Spurs is Rudy Gay. Yeah, I think he's been very productive and has just fit into his role really well for a guy that a couple of years ago just looked like
he was gone out of the league.
Yeah, and looked like he was a bit of a cancer to some teams. Like he just looked like he wanted to be that guy who was taking all the shots and wasn't really of the caliber to do that. He's got like 13 and 8 for this season so far. He's had up and down games, but I think he plays his role really well and he's a good scorer for the Spurs.
It's once again, Popovich just finds a way to maximize individual talents. I think he's the best in the league at, you do this well, so this is what we're doing. Even with DeRozan, you don't shoot threes well. Let's not shoot the threes. Let's focus more on your playmaking and look at the rise in his assist numbers. So I think that, if you've got one individual talent but you're lacking in other areas, Popovich, go to the Spurs because he'll find a way to make you at least a decent NBA player.
Do not foul anybody here on the dribble. It's going to be James. Here it is. See, it's under 3 seconds to go. Throws up the floater. Good night, Cleveland. That is for you.
So it's my turn on the clock this week. I've got some hard-hitting questions
Here we go.
for you guys. Daniel, we're going to start off with you. Yep. Are the Sacramento Kings good?
No.
Well, they've started the season 6-4, and De'Aaron Fox looks really good. They look to have a really good, solid young core. Maybe they're not good, but are they not a basket case anymore?
100%. So last week I had them as my hot. I really like what Sacramento's done so far this season. Look, they're not good. They're not going to make the playoffs. At least if they made the playoffs, it would be a complete shock. But they are no longer a basket case. They have a direction. They have a young group of players who they can actually build from for the future. So
and now they kind of might be enticing to free agents.
Yeah. And as we said, I talked about last week how they had the adapted to this new style of NBA where their pace has risen, their three-pointers attempt have risen, but it's more the youngsters and the age bracket that they're in. So Bielitsa, Kufis, and Shumpets are the only players above 25 years old. Those guys aren't going to be part of the next Kings team that challenges for a championship. But then Hield and Collie Stein are 25, De'Aaron Fox is 21, Giles is 20, Bagley is 19. We talked about De'Aaron last week. He's been really good. Willie Collie Stein as well. It's funny how you get to a contract year and suddenly you start playing well. He wants that contract at the end of the year. But Buddy Hield, he's averaging just under 20 points per game on 53% from the field and 48% from three. He scored over 15 points in all but one game.
And that's what everyone expected of him when he got drafted.
Yep, that's what he was doing at Oklahoma.
For him to finally hit that potential and show that he can.
And I think he can get better.
Is amazing.
Yeah, I honestly think from what I've seen from him, I think he could be a 23, 24. He's got the potential to do that, which, I mean, we laughed at the Kings when their owner said he was the next Steph Curry. I don't think he's going to be the next Steph Curry, but at least we're starting to see, especially that shooting ability, we're starting to see what he promised at Oklahoma. But in saying that, they've lost to good teams. Like, yes, okay, the Thunder win was good, but the Grizzlies, the Wizards, the Heat, the Magic, and the Hawks, good wins, but let's be honest, like, that's not going to get you to the playoffs, and I don't think that classifies you as good. But, no, they've been very impressive.
Yeah. Brownie, could Denver realistically challenge the Warriors for the Western Conference Finals?
Short answer, no.
This is a very easy
I'm seeing a trend with my question so far.
They do have a solid team. I like what I'm seeing with them, but I don't think they'll sustain this level of play
with the Warriors.
Well, that too, but I don't think they're that good. I think they're sort of like the Bucks in a way. They're just on a hot start. I think once in about a month or two, they'll hit a wall, and I think they'll go down a bit. And I expect Houston to start playing well at some stage and come back up. Yeah. So, but yeah, I don't think that could continue with the Warriors. I think it'll probably be a sweep, but the Warriors would sweep everyone at the moment.
I think the big question, before we move on, I think the big question with them is, can they sustain the defense? That's the question mark. Their offense is fine. It's really good. You're like, we know what Jokic, Gary Harris, Jamal Murray, what these guys can do. They don't even have Will Barton at the moment. If you want to throw Isaiah Thomas, who hasn't played yet, to be a spark plug off the bench, it's can they continue to keep this up defensively? I mean, right now they're a top 3 defense in the league. And in 6 of their 9 games, they've held their opponent to under 100 points. 6 of their 9 games. We've had, we're going to talk about the Lakers in a second, who haven't held anyone under 110, and they've held 6 teams under 100 when the NBA is going through one of probably the biggest scoring booms in recent history. So they've been impressive, and we already seen from Houston last year, explosive offense may challenge the Warriors in one game. Yeah. To really hang with them in a series, it comes down to your defense. If they can keep up a top 10 defense, top 3 is probably too much, but if they can keep up a top 10 defense, I think they might scare the Warriors without DeMarcus Cousins.
Yeah.
But if DeMarcus Cousins comes back, it's over. Because they got a big advantage with Jokic versus Damian Jones or whoever it is. But if DeMarcus comes back healthy, see you later advantage.
Daniel, this one isn't a yes or no question, so you can't get a no answer out of this one.
Yeah, this one is a long one.
What happens first? The 76ers make the Eastern Conference Finals, or Markelle Fultz is traded?
I don't know, to be perfectly honest, is my answer. I think they're playing a similar juggling game to what Boston are playing with Gordon Hayward, in terms of they're probably a better team right now if Hayward comes off the bench, but they know that they need him to get back to 100% if they want to challenge at the end of the season. I think the Sixers know that they need to figure out if Fultz is part of their long-term plan, because if he isn't part of their long-term plan, they need to move him on and try and get some value before he turns into a bust and nobody wants him anymore. So it's a juggling act of, I don't think Brett Brown is stupid. I think Brett Brown knows that starting Redick makes this team better. I don't think that's really... People are going off saying he doesn't know how to coach because right now Fultz is starting over Redick. But then in the second half, Redick starts, which is kind of an admission that he knows. And I think Brett Brown does know, but at the same time, I don't think Simmons and Fultz work together on the court.
Yeah, they definitely can't. Yeah. And I've looked at this, and you just look at how... I think it was against Atlanta last week, how they defended Fultz. Every time he's open on the 3-point line, they force him to shoot it. Yeah, take the shot.
They run away from him.
They take one player away, and they've got a free man in the middle of the court. So, if they've got Simmons and Fultz, there's two guys.
They have two number one picks who are either too scared or can't shoot outside the paint.
No, you can't have that.
And now I did a little bit of looking at these per 100 possession numbers. Look, taken with a grain of salt, but I think when there's big disparities, that there's something to it. Yeah. So Fultz. He's averaging 9. So this is over the whole season, but over with the 100 possessions stats, he's averaging 12 points and 4 assists per 100 possessions when Simmons is on the court. When Simmons is off the court, he's averaging just under 20 points and 8 assists. So almost a double in both his statistics. Then Simmons' numbers, he's averaging 15 points and 9 assists per 100 possessions when Fultz is on the court. When he's off the court, that goes up to 22 points and almost 12 assists. And as a team, so the Sixers are scoring 106 points per 100 possessions when Simmons, Embiid, and Redick play together without Fultz. You sub out Redick, put Fultz into that lineup, it drops off to 95. So that's an 11-point swing per 100 possessions. I don't think there's much argument that they are better with Redick in that starting lineup. Are they better long-term with Markelle Fultz on or off that team is what they have to decide.
Yeah. And you look at, you want Ben Simmons to be playing 30, 35 minutes a game, and Fultz is probably expecting to play about 25.
Playing about 24 at the moment.
So the minutes are going to overlap.
Well, and this is the thing. If you looked at it, the first couple of games they played was over half their minutes the same time. Yeah. But in the last 6 games, they've played no more than 9 minutes together in a single game. So he's doing an okay job of stagnating it. But it's that Jed talked about last week, used the term growing pains, which I think is a really good way of describing it. I think they're worth it if Fultz can deliver on that Washington potential, which is a huge if. Yeah. But you might as well try and see. Now's the time to do it. It's not like in March it's too late.
Because he's damaged goods.
This is the thing. At least Fultz, he hasn't been great. He's shooting 30% from 3 and 26% from 2-point jumpers. So that's not great. At least he's trying. To be perfectly honest, I'd prefer if Simmons would at least try. Yeah. We're not going to know unless you shoot it and we find out. So, and I think that there is a limit on both of those players, especially Fultz. Simmons can still be an all-star, even if he doesn't have a jump shot, but Fultz needs a jump shot.
Yeah.
And there was one as well. Too. Yeah. There was one as well in that loss to the Nets where they got destroyed by the Nets, which the Nets have been okay, but still, there was 1 3 he took, which, it barely even hit the bottom of the backboard from the angle. It was atrocious. Yeah. And it's that's not the Fultz we saw at Washington. He's still not right. And if he's still not right a year and a half later, it's pretty concerning.
Yeah, it is a little bit.
But to answer your question, to bring it back, will they make the Eastern Conference Final or trade Fultz first? Trade Fultz first.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'd say the same.
I think the Celtics and the Raptors and maybe even the Bucks are ahead of them to make that Eastern Conference Final.
The Pacers, I'd say, could beat them.
Yep.
I don't see them.
I just don't like what I've seen so far from the 76ers. Yep. Brownie, will Luke Walton survive the year?
No. He's going to get sacked. And he deserves to be sacked. Because he's got the best player in the world and he still plays the same game plan of playing fast when LeBron has never played at such a pace and he's in his 16th year. If you're a great coach, you adapt to what players you got. And we've got LeBron.
And that's it.
And as far as defensively, I don't know what game plan he's got there, but all their players look like lost puppies.
Lost
when they're
Witches'
switching, they look
hats.
absolutely lost.
Yeah.
Like they don't know what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
Legit, I could probably score 10 on their defense. It's that bad. It's so bad. Oh, I can't watch it. It's just bad. They made Ibaka look like an all-star. So, no, short answer, no, he's going to get sacked soon. It's
going to get
the way
sacked
it's going.
soon. Okay.
And someone's getting traded. Ingram, if he keeps going missing all
Do
the
you know
time.
what I did enjoy? There was a headline. Magic Johnson said, "We're not going to fire Luke Walton unless something
Yeah, it
drastic
goes
happens."
drastically
and
wrong.
then they were down by 30 points at a quarter time against the Raptors.
Does this classify as drastic?
Yeah.
No, well, if you can't tell, Brownie has some opinions on the Lakers.
Some big opinions.
Some big opinions. Look, rational-wise, let's just talk about it with a little bit less emotion for those who aren't Lakers fans. They've given up 110 points or more in
They
every
gave up 70 points in the first half against the Raptors with
game.
no Kawhi Leonard.
They've
So,
given
what
up.
does that tell you?
They've given up 120 or more points in 5 of their 10. It's bad. That is really bad. Which it seems to be a trend with these LeBron teams, but we did talk about it before. LeBron doesn't really seem to be anywhere near top gear.
Yeah.
He doesn't look engaged at
No.
all.
You can allow that when the team is winning,
Yeah.
and when he's still doing enough to get the team over the line. When it's looking the way it is, he can't coast through the season and wait till the playoffs to turn it on, because
If they end up
They're not gonna
facing
make it
Golden
there.
State or something in the first round, they're going to lose probably then anyway
Yeah.
if they finish down the bottom.
Yeah.
But yeah, they got some
The
issues.
only when they play fast,
Yeah,
it looks good when LeBron is not on the floor.
yeah,
Like when we were coming back, LeBron wasn't on the floor
Yeah.
at that stage. That's the only acceptable time to be playing at such a high pace. Because when I don't know, when LeBron's on the floor, it doesn't seem to work playing at that pace. It's too fast.
All right, let's keep going. Otherwise, we'll be on this topic forever.
I've got two more. So we'll,
It's to everyone,
I'll
yeah.
throw it open
To the floor.
Who is the worst team in the NBA?
Cavs.
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 It's that simple. I mean, if you look at the other teams who are close to the Cavs, the Mavs at least have Luka Doncic. The Suns have Ayton and Booker.
Yeah.
You got Chicago at least have Levine. They got Wendell Carter. They got a couple of nice pieces. And then you got the Cavs who have Colin Sexton and Jetty Osman.
Did you see? I read something. I think it was yesterday that the Cavs veterans think Colin Sexton
Yes.
doesn't know how to play basketball, or like something along those lines. I don't think those are the exact words.
Not a vote of confidence, but in good news for the Cavs, this morning they did sign Larry Drew for the rest of the year. So the I don't want to be coach, but I'll be coach without being named coach is now coach. So read into that what you will. But yeah, look, Colin Sexton's been okay, but he was bought. One of his trademarks was that defense, and right now we're not seeing that. And he's only, I think,
Seen that from the whole team, to be honest. But
well, exactly. But even the three ball as well, I think he's only hit 1 or 2 for the whole season, or he had last time I checked. So, yeah, I think the Cavs are a clear mess, to be perfectly honest.
basket case.
All right, last question, Jared.
So the last question, we've got a situation in the West which we didn't expect, and there are 5 teams who pretty much everyone predicted to make the playoffs, sitting outside the top 8. Those are Utah, Minnesota, the Lakers, Houston, and New Orleans. We'll start off which team finishes the highest out of those 5 teams.
Brownie, go for it.
Out of those 5, I still
You say
think,
Lakers now after your rant.
Well, we'll
they
see
get a new coach?
what happens
Mike.
by January.
Okay.
January is
That's the
usually
chop-off
when
point.
stuff happens.
Yep.
But I still think Houston's. They've got a lot of upside. They've been a rocky start. Obviously, Chris Paul was suspended,
James Harden hamstring.
so I think they're still the second best team in the West. They
Houston.
just get
Houston
a run.
for me as well.
Yeah, I'd say Houston. I think Utah are the one that'll really challenge them, and if it's not Houston,
And
it'll
lucky
be
for Utah, Donovan Mitchell looked like he went down with a bad injury, but it's not as bad as they thought. So at least that's good.
Also, which of those 5
Yeah.
teams misses out? Because I look at the top 8 in the West at the moment, and I see 8 teams that have been playing good basketball.
But 3 teams look like they'll definitely come
I don't
out.
see 8 teams that are going to make the playoffs.
So I think we can agree that the Grizzlies, the Clippers, and the Kings are probably all going to fall out. So that would put in 5 of Houston, Lakers.
yeah.
3 of Houston, Lakers, Jazz, Pelicans, and what was the other team? Minnesota.
Yeah.
Look, for me, I'd say Houston and Jazz 100% come in. Minnesota misses out. The Lakers just make it. And then New Orleans is fighting for a spot with the Spurs. That's what I'd say to come down to. But any different ideas? Anyone there you think?
No, I agree with that.
Yep.
Yeah, I think New
Someone
Orleans is an
argue with
interesting
me.
one because I think I'd love to think New Orleans can make the playoffs and do some real damage in the playoffs. But for some
We're going to
reason,
get to them
I
next.
just-
They
yeah,
have not been.
I just can't bring myself to think that Nikola Mirotic is going to be on the hot streak for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
I think Anthony Davis can take this team far and Drew Holiday can do a good job. But yeah, I think if they do make it, they'll scrape in.
I
It's
think
gonna
it'll be.
a fight with the Spurs.
I think it'll be them, the Spurs, and if the Lakers don't get a hurry on, they might be in that race as well.
'Cause you're hot, then you're cold, you're yes, then you're no, you're in, then you're out, you're up, then you're down, you're wrong when it's
All right, hot and cold. I'm going to kick it off with my hot, which, brace yourself, Brownie. Do you know what's coming here? It's DeAndre Jordan.
Yeah.
We live in a world in which DeAndre Jordan is an 82% free throw shooter.
What a time to
What
be
a
alive.
world.
What a world.
It's only taken him, like, how many seasons to finally...
The year is 2018. Derrick
a miracle.
Rose has scored 50 points, and DeAndre Jordan is an elite free throw shooter. So he is shooting 82% from the free throw line. He's made 28 of his 34 free throws. He's a career 45% free thrower, and his previous career high last year was 58%. So, look, credit to DJ. That's a huge improvement. And, I mean, 28 of 34 is not a huge sample size, but that's not like a 3 and 9. Like, that's a big...
I think DeAndre Jordan, his free throw shooting style has never looked bad. Like
I think a lot of it's
never,
up here.
it's never looked as ugly as a lot of the other big men in the NBA and a lot of the guys who can't shoot free throws. It's always looked like the shots could fall. So I think it is all mental, and I think he's finally. Hopefully, it's for the better because I'd like to see DeAndre Jordan hit those free throws.
Yeah, well, from a Clippers supporter.
Take a Jordan. We see it all the time at Clippers games.
Yep, all right, Brownie, you're hot.
I've got Joel Embiid.
Oh,
39 points, 17 rebounds in their win.
Turn Jared's microphone off.
And I just love the trash talk on social media with Drummond. It was just, he's so good. He's just
funny.
The ultimate trash talker. I love it.
I can't say anything because in the most recent game against Detroit, he absolutely destroyed Drummond, and there's nothing to say. The
flop part's
the
a
flop that
joke.
annoys me
Yeah.
that got Drummond
Yeah,
ejected,
yeah.
and then to go on social media and say you're in his head, and like.
I think the quote was,
love it.
I own a significant real estate. in
Yeah,
his
and
head.
like, the one thing I didn't like was him playing to the crowd and calling to get Andre Drummond sent out. But it's like, you then got warned for flopping, and you flopped.
Yeah, look, the flopping lost me a bit, but I do love Embiid. He's good fun. Hot.
My hot is Pascal Siakam.
Yep.
I think he's been so crucial to this Raptors side this season. I think Serge Ibaka's had a great couple of games, like against the Lakers. Was 14 or 14 before he hit a shot?
Yeah.
I think they said he was like counting the game before he'd made 18 straight shots. And like the last player to do that was like Wilt Chamberlain. So
You turned Ibaka into Wilt Chamberlain.
But Siakam's had a real solid season so far, and just in this last week, he's had a 15-15 game, 10-5 against Phoenix, which is a bit low, but then 16-13 against the Lakers. I think he's so great, and he's energetic, and I just really enjoy watching him.
One of those depth players that don't get mentioned on the Raptors, but it's one of those reasons why they're right up there with the Celtics for best team in the East. All right, cold. The New Orleans Pelicans, we just mentioned them.
Did you do your
They
hot?
started, my hot was
you did.
DeAndre, so cold. They started the season, the Pelicans, 4-0. So they won the first 4 games on fire. They were averaging 128 points through the first 4 contests, so that was always going to regress a little bit. But since then, they've lost 5 games in a row, and it's also who they lost to that hurts so much. The Jazz, the Nuggets, the Warriors, the Trailblazers, and the Spurs. That's 5 teams they're going to be fighting for playoff spots in the West, which it hurts when you drop. They're almost like 2-point games because you've lost and you've given one to a competitor. Obviously, Davis didn't play in 3 of those games, and Elfrid Payton, which laugh all you want, he's actually been pretty good this season, 12.6 assists per game. He's missed the last 4. I just think that hot start was probably like a flash in the pan, and this team is good, but there's still a clear ceiling on how far the Pelicans can go. A healthy Anthony Davis, and they're going to test some in the West, but against the top teams, I think they're going to come unstuck. Because I'm like you, I don't think Mirotic can keep up his shooting. I like what Julius Randle's done, but they just don't have enough, in my opinion, to really challenge out West. Brownie, you're cold. Oh,
I
no.
got to continue it.
Oh, no.
The Lakers defense.
Oh, my gosh.
I got to keep roasting it. They gave up 71 points in the first half to the Raptors, who did not have Kawhi Leonard. How do you let that go? I know it's a high-scoring league, but god damn. Jeez, that is just bad. I can't get over that.
Did you sleep at all last night, or did you just sit there dreaming of like Pascal Siakam open dunk, Kyle Lowry open layup?
That's how bad it was. Just ridiculous.
Another missed defensive rotation.
Kawhi, not Kawhi. Larry just he was looking like a beast.
Oh,
He got a few
man.
and one plays. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? I just don't. I know it was on a back to back, but you got to show some heart there. It's not looking good. Someone's getting traded.
You're big on that, Jared. You're cold.
I'm going to say the Washington Wizards. I think they're
frozen.
in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
And I said last week Dwight Howard would be an interesting one to come back.
He actually played all right.
He played all right. He had 20
but
points
it
in his
didn't-
first game, then had a double-double in his second game.
They did win one game though, didn't they? They
Yeah.
beat the Knicks, I think. Yeah.
And yeah,
Congratulations. You beat
Yeah,
a
it's-
Kevin Porzingis-less Knicks.
They're a real interesting side, and we spoke about it in depth last week
Yep.
about what's
Can
going
we
to happen to this
get the
squad.
quote from John Wall?
I was looking for it. I
Okay.
don't know if that was
The
a real quote.
Yeah, I'm 99% sure. I think it was.
It would have been. It is a funny quote,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
the quote was, "We're around social media. Harry Potter is the only wizard that can save Washington right now." So I don't know if that is actually something John Wall said or it's just been put on social
Hopefully
media.
it was, because that would be quality.
It is
if
very
was.
funny though.
No, they are ice cold, and those problems. Talk about trade for the Lakers.
Beals.
Bradley Beal. maybe that
Might
could
be
could be a possibility. All right, we're going to wrap up our Aussie performances from the week. Brownie, what's the update on Simmons' 3-point tally?
None have been taken yet. He just put one up.
Just put one up. We don't need
Could
to
have
get
done
into
it.
it. We've
They
done
lost to the Nets, but he could have put one up in that game.
Yeah, he could have.
Like,
But other than
he
that,
Not even like a half court heave, like
Nothing.
nothing.
nothing. Absolute donuts.
So
Anyway,
in the
outside
loss
of his
against the
three
Nets,
balls.
he got 20 points, 12
Yep.
rebounds, 3 assists against the Pistons in a win there. He
Yep.
got 9 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and 5 steals
Yep.
on the defensive end. Did a
Yep.
bit of work. And then against the Clippers, which was a loss,
Yeah.
he got 14 points, 3 rebounds, 11 assists, and a steal.
I think they beat us, actually. I'm pretty sure.
I
Yeah.
thought I read.
No,
loss.
I'm pretty sure we lost, I think. But anyway.
I read that wrong,
yeah.
but anyway.
And then as well against the Raptors, I think he had 11 turnovers versus
Yeah.
Kawhi, which might have been the game on the Wednesday, our last day we recorded.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Kawhi stole his lunch money, but not a great week from Simmons,
No.
all things considered, even though we have quite high standard. Jingles.
A solid week without blowing anyone out of the water. His first game against Minnesota, 13 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. Then against Memphis, 19 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, a block and a steal as well.
Yep.
And then against Denver, a bit of a slower game for him. Only took the 5 shots, but was 1 of 5. 4 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, and a couple of steals.
Exum. Let's go with Exum.
He had 6 points, 1 rebound, and an assist against the Nuggets.
Yep.
4 rebounds, 3 points against Memphis. And against the Timberwolves, he did well. He had 14 points, 3 assists, and 4 rebounds.
Jed, your job might be in jeopardy. Brownie's taking over Exum. Let's go,
Yeah.
Patty Thrills.
So Patty Thrills, 9 points against Phoenix in a win, and then against New Orleans, triple-double alert for Patty Thrills. 15 points, 8
15.
rebounds, 7 assists, 4 of 5 from 3. A block as well from Patty Mills.
I want to see the vision of that.
Yeah. But then against Orlando, another 16 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. So he's
Solid
making the
week.
most of his minutes
Yeah.
at the moment, and he has to kind of get that rotation. They've had 2-point guards go down, so luckily he's getting the minutes.
Yep.
And yeah, he's making the most of it.
All right, Delhi had donuts in the minutes column versus Boston. He played 8 minutes in that blowout win versus the Kings for the Bucks. Had 2 points, 5 assists, 3 boards, and 1 assist. So I wrote 2. I don't know what I did there, but he was okay. Aaron Baines, 9 points and 5 boards against the Pistons, which was his updated about quarter time in that game. So he didn't really go much further after quarter time. 5 points and 3 boards against the Bucks. And from what I can see from searching YouTube, he didn't get posterized by Giannis. So that's a tick. That's a mega tick. And 6 points and 1 board in the loss to the Pacers. He's averaging about like 12 to 9 minutes per game, so he's still getting some decent minutes, and he's shooting 4 of 10 from 3 with that wacky release this week. So not bad from Bainesy. Is that pretty? Oh, we got Brokoff.
Didn't play.
Didn't play at all. Did I miss Don
Maker.
Maker? Yes.
No minutes in the loss to the Celtics.
Yep.
And with a win against the Kings, he actually got 9 minutes.
Yep.
3 points, 2 rebounds.
Oh no, that's what happens when you score 144 points. You get a little bit of you get some time on the court. All right,
Yeah.
Jonah Bolden, we forgot about him last week. Now he's been all over the shop. So he keeps getting brought up and then sent back down. He was brought up for the Clippers game, then didn't play, sent back down again. We missed him last week, but he did play versus the Hawks and the Raptors. He scored his first NBA basket, so he's ticked that off the list. In his G League debut on Sunday, he finished with 28 points, 15 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 block shots in 38 minutes. So have yourself a game, Mr. Jonah Bolden. Yeah. Markelle Fultz, get out the way. Jonah Bolden is the new 76ers starting point guard after that performance.
Yeah. Also, I guess just to mention, Mitch Creek
made
his debut in the G League, 8 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists.
Dangadell
as well, 24 minutes, 17 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. So, yeah.
Yep. And Humphries has played 2 games, I think, and he had decent-ish numbers.
Yeah, so Humphries had 11 points, 7 rebounds, a couple of assists, a couple of steals and a block as well.
Yep. They're a long way off, unfortunately, playing NBA time, but still not bad.
We start off with Brandon Ingram, who could be traded soon with a massive left-hander, making his trade value, getting it up there. He actually showed something in this game. He's been missing on most games, but a good dunk there.
All right, Mitchell Robinson. The reverse alley-oop dunk. Look, not bad. The Knicks don't have much to celebrate from the early season, but that is a very nice dunk and an underrated player who's probably going to get some more attention.
Now we got the Greek freak, the absolute beast, and he throws it down. What a mega dunk.
What
over
are you
someone,
doing?
I don't know who that is, but he posterized him.
And Victor Oladipo here with the cleanest game winner you will ever see against the Celtics.
I had no idea that it was that clean of a shot.
Just absolutely incredible from Victor Oladipo.
And then he got the steal as well on the other end to secure it. No, that is as far as game winners go, that is about as clean as it gets. The play-by-play commentator actually called it in the air, so you'd want to be right once you've called another one before it's even gone through. But no, that was a brilliant shot from Oladipo. And look, the Pacers have been pretty good. We didn't mention them in our debate for the best in the East, but they've been right there. All right, that is all we've got for this week's episode. Thank you for listening and watching, and we'll see you next week.